What is up, everybody? This is your host, Christopher Rennie, and we're going to be talking in our normal speaking voice today because I'm hosting guests. Don't want to be a rude host, but the show must go on. So we're going to get into it today. We're going to be talking about the World Series, the tale of the tape so far. Viewership's down. I'm going to throw some opinions out on that. We're going to get into the NFL storylines that drove the week, including Tua Tagovailoa taking over as the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. The troubled kids in school, two different reasons. One, I think, can recover. The other, I just really don't see why there's any interest being driven in him. It's really, honestly, kind of like a big question mark in my head. We're going to talk about that soon. Yes, his talent is unquestionable. We haven't seen him play in 2 years. Next on the list, the Cowboys turn on their coach. Where they're going to go from here. McCarthy called it a teachable moment in his press conference yesterday. I don't think that's what it is. Why was Mike McCarthy hired? We're going to get into it today on the Chris Rennie Show. But first, give me a rating. I still have these spiteful 1 stars in my box. Let's get me up till 4.8, 4.9 again, like my Uber rating. And we'll get after it. Then follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Rennie CFB and Chris Rennie MB. And we'll get into it today. Have a good one. Enjoy the show. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that. Make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. So the last time we spoke on the Chris Rennie Show, we were talking about the past weekend in the NFL, the games that happened, the storylines, all that. That's sort of what drives sports talk. We all know that. We've all been here before. Unless you're a new listener, then you haven't. But you've listened to sports talk. This is what happens. So now we're 2 games in. And the story of the Dodgers games have been pretty much the same. The Dodgers-Rays World Series games. The Dodgers are the heavily favored team due to their high payroll and ultra-talented roster, starting with Cody Bellinger, ending with Mookie Betts. It's a powerhouse of a team. And the Rays are on the opposite side of the spectrum. Cheap, affordable, but mashers that they found through acquisitions and through the draft. So, not knocking the Dodgers, they have their homegrown talent as well. But when you look into the stories that drive this World Series, it's going to be money versus no money. And when you look at the story so far, in the first game, the $35 million pitcher dealt, had a great 5-inning outing. Bullpen came in, almost gave us a little scare, wasn't anything too crazy, and the bats came up big. That's exactly what you expect when you're the Dodgers, and that's exactly the formula to winning for the Dodgers. Spent a lot of money, correct? A lot of money. More money than most teams in the league. I think second to only the Yankees. So we're going to switch sides. Game 2. So the Dodgers won Game 1. It was a great game. It was fun. I think seeing Kershaw pitch that well was great. 8-3, all right. A few more home runs, a few more big hits from the Dodgers. But it was a pretty exceptional game from the Dodgers. So looking at Game 2, the Rays won this thing 6-4. the Rays have a lefty pitcher that's one of their highest paid players on the roster who dealt 4 consecutive innings, 2 strikeouts apiece in each of those innings. Bullpen came in, did their job, gave us a little scare, got some timely big hits, and that was the game, right? So what I'm getting at is one team has spent into the 200 millions in payroll. One team has spent 65 or so million in payroll, and we literally watched the exact 2 same games. I think that is the most amazing thing about baseball, all right? Yes, the Dodgers on paper, with how much money they have spent, should be the better, more talented team. But when you have that kind of money and you have guys that are good to the organization, good to the rotation, good to all of that culture that you've already built, you're going to pay them a little bit to stay on for the ride. When you're the Rays, you get one ride. So, to me, I understand that Tampa Bay is excited. They are a small market team. They have a smaller payroll than the Cleveland Indians, which have a small payroll. They really are trying to. This is their shot. They'll have a shot next year, but they have a much smaller window than the Dodgers. As we've seen with the Dodgers in the postseason the last 4 to 5 years, they've been ready to roll, ready to get there. They've had big names that have come. They've had big names that have left. And now, to me, there's 2 teams with the exact same winning formula coming from different sides of the payroll spectrum in the Major League Baseball, the only sport where that's really possible besides international soccer. And it really is an exciting turn of events that, if the Dodgers won last night, it would have been great. My boss would have been happy. Everything would have been good. The Dodgers would be on this hot streak, 2-0 lead, but then that would just make the pain more. Now you're seeing that even though they spent a little less money, the Rays are, in fact, an equal and deserve to be there. The Dodgers, although they spent that money, are playing a team that is well put together, well thought up, well managed, and it's not a knock on the general manager at the Dodgers. He has an easy job, but you can overspend on a big free agent and it could hold you down for the next 5 to 10 years. Look at the LA counterpart with what they did with Albert Pujols. It's what happens when small market teams try to act like their big market team counterparts. I'm not saying the Angels don't have that much money. I think they're in the top 15 in payroll, but they spent most of that payroll on 2 players. At least the Dodgers have a very well-balanced lineup top to bottom. Great pitching staff, solid bullpen. Even though at times last night the bullpen really did have some trouble with their control, and then they'd give an easy pitch to hit, and then boom, game's wide open, the Rays are up. A lot of great hits. What's his name? Brandon Lowe, he's been unbelievable in the series. Every time the Dodgers sort of answered, it felt like Lowe was there to respond. Seager had a great game last night. So we're really going to see the stars of each team. Margot on the Rays, Lowe on the Rays, the pitching staff on the Rays, Arena versus their best, Cody Bellinger, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, against those guys. And it's going to be awesome to watch. So with all this great storyline, with all of the surrounding aspects around the World Series, why is viewership down? And I honestly can tell you this, it's pretty easy. It's not like we're not going to go run around, set the moon on fire here. There are a lot of Dodger fans, all right? And it's football season, and that's usually something that you compete with. But to me, there's 2 aspects that have driven the viewership down for not only sports, but mostly just baseball and basketball. Yes, you could go and throw politics at basketball all you want. That's fine. But in reality, that's just not the truth of the matter. Most of the people who are saying they weren't going to watch the NBA haven't really watched the NBA in years anyways. So getting after it today, baseball's down because they started at a random date. There was no preparation. There was no long, hot summer of baseball. There was no build-up to this World Series game, and we all took a break from sports. So you combine all of those different aspects. All right, you're hearing me. You're listening. You combine all those different aspects, and it's going to drive viewership down. There's people I've talked to this week, fair weather sports fans that didn't know the World Series was starting Monday. Those casual fans that sort of change the amount of viewership, they don't care as much. It's okay. I get it. I mean, there was a 60-game season. The postseason was extended. What does this World Series mean? It means the same to me. But from a TV viewership standpoint, there was going to be adverse effects. And then on the other side, you have a very small market franchise in the Tampa Bay Rays. And they are not going to drive a lot of eyes to the seat. This isn't Boston Red Sox versus the LA Dodgers. This isn't the New York Yankees versus the LA Dodgers, where you have millions upon millions of fans in just one city. The two biggest cities in the world. I mean, that might even be a bad example because how big the cities are. But you understand the point. There are major markets in baseball. One of the smallest markets, one of the bottom, I want to say, 28th, 29th sized market. It might be the smallest market in the league in Tampa Bay. It's in the World Series. That is not driving viewership to the television. I love the way the Rays play baseball. I've liked the Rays since Evan Longoria. I think most people have a soft spot in their heart for the Rays except the AL East. And right now the LA Dodgers. But the Dodgers aren't enough to get people to the TV. Just like LeBron and the Lakers weren't enough to get people to the TV. Yes, it's all good. We get it. But let's not make this a bigger deal than it is. Viewership for sports was going to be down this year. It was not the same product. It's not as energized without fans. It's not the same experience that gets everybody involved, from the guy who barely knows a thing about baseball to the guy who is studying analytics every day just because he doesn't want to work. It's just the way it is. And, it's all right. Baseball will be fine. It's a regional sport anyways. They make their money 1 through 162 with TV rights. That is where the big money is. And the postseason rights are already paid for. So just because viewers are down, it just means in the next contract negotiations, there's going to be a little bit more challenge to get the same amount of money. So it's really not that complicated. It's really not as big of a deal as people are making it seem. And I see most people saying this because of what happened to the NBA and their viewership being down. The only sports not really affected have been the SEC football, which, no surprise, and the NFL. The two almost impossibly, what's the word? Well, I don't want to say pandemic immune because the SEC just got hit pretty hard, but recession immune for their own business. They are never going to struggle to get their audience to watch. That's just the truth. Whew, loaded show today. So, yeah, from here on out, I'm not going to make any picks on the World Series. You guys already have my picks. I either think the Rays win in 7 or the Dodgers win in 6. Yes, I made 2 picks. Sue me. More people should do it. You have 2 odds and 2 more chances to be right. So, get after me, whatever you want. I wish sports betting worked that way, but it doesn't. So, I don't usually bet money. So, here we go. I bet other things. Tua Tagovailoa. You guys know him. The Flying Hawaiian, Alabama football. Nick Saban's protege, the one quarterback. So much charisma. He has the crosses on the eye black, the cool hair, a little smaller, hurt his hip. I've hurt my hip before. It's the worst. Not near as bad as Tua has, and it it's a tough recovery. It's one thing to recover from strained hip flexor. What happened to him ended careers 10 years ago, ended careers 20 years ago, ended Bo Jackson's career, the greatest athlete arguably to ever exist on this planet. Those injuries are not easy to come back from. So, first and foremost, you got to give a lot of credit to Tua for making it back, competing, getting after it in practice, showing what he's capable of in honestly such a short time after such a serious injury. Tua's back. All right. If you haven't heard, actually it just came up on Good Morning Football, which I'm watching right now as I do the show. Tua Tagovailoa is an ultra-talented, generational quarterback prospect. The person he is succeeding for the job is not. All right. As much as Fitzpatrick is great, the career rattled with just inconsistencies and this gunslinger mentality. He is the best when he is counted out, when no one is expecting him. But the minute, he gets settled in, he relaxes just a little bit, he becomes wasted. He is a awful quarterback. But as the 17th ranked quarterback in the league on a 4-2 team with this, or a 3-3 team, what? I thought they were 4-2. Either way, he's 500. Does Brian Flores believe that Tua Tagovailoa can get them over the hump and to a higher level of football? Absolutely. He wouldn't be making this move if he didn't. They wouldn't have drafted him if they didn't believe that. So yes, I understand all the reasons Ryan Fitzpatrick's upset. I would be upset too. It would hurt my feelings to be 3-3, playing really good the last couple of weeks. And then, you hit the bye week, the first thing you hear, hey Ryan, we're going to go with Tua next week. Be ready to go. If anything happens, you're the guy again. Well, that hurts. I know it hurts. It sucks when you're told you're not going to be able to play or you're probably not going to make it into the rotation. It is not something as an athlete you want to hear. It sucks. But once you get to that level, once you get to a level that is more competitive than the one you were before, it's cutthroat. People are getting paid more money. People have to do a better job. And people are considered replaceable. It's just the fact of the matter. Until you make yourself irreplaceable, the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Manning's, the best quarterbacks in the business, even the best running backs have proven to be replaceable, at least for short periods of time. No offense to Zeke, but when he was out last year, the Cowboys struggled a little. It wasn't crazy. But this is the wholesale change at the most important position in football. What is Brian Flores thinking? And I can tell you what he's thinking. We're not around at practice. We don't see the buzz that Tua's driving in the locker room. We don't see how all the players are talking. And that doesn't even matter. Yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick can feel like it's his team all he wants. But if that left-handed Hawaiian dude can get you 7 more points a game on average, throw a few less interceptions, shoot you in the foot a few less times with the running back you have, with the talent that the Dolphins have at receiver, with the growing defensive talent they have on the other side of the ball, they're going to be in a really good position moving forward. And yesterday when I was reacting to this in my head as I was preparing for this show throughout the day, mentally, that is, I think about it throughout the day, I was thinking, man, this might be the worst time to announce this. Like, Ryan Fitzpatrick's playing well. If he has the locker room, this is only setting Tua up for failure. I don't think that anymore. I do think that it's going to be a tougher situation for Tua. I think this is textbook on the way you should handle a quarterback. Most teams, when they make this switch at the quarterback position, are sending up a hope and a prayer. Their team is struggling. They're 2-4. They took a quarterback. This veteran guy won a couple early. They stuck with him. It was kind of a lie. This has happened a lot with Ryan Fitzpatrick, by the way. And it was proven fraudulent as the year moved along. Brian Flores isn't falling for it, and he's going with his guy. And yes, Tua, this is the advice I have for you moving forward as a quarterback. Now, the Dolphins' offensive line, a lot better than it used to be. Not great. Get the ball out quick. Number 2, this might be a little selfish of me, but hand the ball to your running backs. I don't have the name of them. It's Miles Gaskins, maybe. I don't have him on my fantasy team or anything. Sad Modelo time. I don't know, man. Hand him the ball quite a bit. Let him just hammer the workload with him. Open up the play action pass. Give yourself a little bit of time. My biggest thing is, and I've seen it work with Baker and Kevin Stefanski and Jared Goff and Sean McVay. The biggest key is getting the quarterback into comfortable positions to make easy throws. Kyle Shanahan, Jimmy Garoppolo. It's the biggest step into moving forward with a young quarterback. And then as they get better at doing that, you can start challenging them a little bit. And I think Tua is more ready for the challenge than any of the quarterbacks I just named. And that's not a knock on Goff or Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo. But Tua is generational. Tua would have been the number 1 pick in the draft if he didn't hurt his hip. That's just the truth. I get it. Joe Burrow had a great year. But Cincinnati would have more reasons to draft Joe Burrow than Tua just due to the proximity of where Joe Burrow grew up. Makes for a great story. He's coming home, all that. Southern Ohio. It's cool. I get it. But Tua was the best quarterback in the draft prior to his hip getting destroyed. So I think it was a smart move by the Dolphins. I think Brian Flores, albeit handled it well for everyone outside of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yes, it sucks for Fitzpatrick. I love me some Fitzmagic. It's been a great run. But you saw it. Tampa Bay, they went a different direction. Miami's going a different direction. Every team Ryan Fitzpatrick has played for has gone a different direction. That's just the way it is for some guys in the NFL. Truth, false, doesn't matter. It's the way it is. All right, so it's going to be tough. You read the quotes for Ryan Fitzpatrick. He talked about it, and he said, we've talked in the past, me and you guys, about how I'm the placeholder and this eventually is going to happen. It was just a matter of kind of when, not if. It broke my heart yesterday. It's a tough thing for me to hear and to now have to deal with, but I'm going to do my best with it. And, that is mature. That is why Ryan Fitzpatrick keeps finding jobs. And he went on and continued. There was a lot of stuff going through my mind yesterday, just from a personal standpoint, not necessarily with the team. Is this it? Like, was that my last game as an NFL player in terms of being the starter and going out there and playing? And it's sad. It's a tough realization for anybody when your career is in its twilight and it's not the terms that you were going out on. But I think we've seen it with McCown. Fitzpatrick's very much cut from the same cloth. I think Fitzpatrick will get his swan song this year. I really do. And that's not to harp on Tua or anything like that. I just think it's going to be an opportunity for Fitzpatrick to prove himself one last time before he walks away from the game. And I honestly don't think Fitzpatrick's done. There's going to be a quarterback-needy team where he's going to go in, impress, and win the job. Okay, that's what he did last year when Josh Rosen was there. So we'll see. I don't think Fitzpatrick's story is over. I think Tua's his beginning, but Fitzpatrick's isn't over. All right, so this week has been a week of bad guys, and I don't know much about one of them, but I know one guy is just a terrible, awful person. His history has proven nothing but that. So, the troubled kids in school. One guy is the guy who talks too much, and the other kid is the guy who breaks all the rules, sells weed to the younger kids, and hits his girlfriend in the parking lot. So, different types of troubled kids. Honestly, after I wrote that, I kind of felt bad putting one of the two names I'm going to talk about in the next 5 to 10 minutes in the category. Honestly, it was very short and not as well thought out as I should have done it, but there's talking in class, and there's what I said one of them does. All right, so the one that is an absolute criminal, terrible person, has not proven to be any sort of useful human being to this planet besides being a good athlete. Antonio Brown. All right, so we know the story. Stolen car from an impound lot, got into it, guns were drawn. He's in court for it, so he's being prosecuted right now. There's that strange video of him at his mansion in Hollywood, Florida, yelling at his baby mama. There were the rape charges. We still haven't heard the end of that. So I think there is a lot of stuff that Antonio Brown needs to be more worried about than football. And, I think it really says a lot about that fake nice guy Russell Wilson that he's willing to make this cutthroat move when his wife is an advocate for women's empowerment and that that culture, and it's you're talking to a guy who is the opposite of that, and he's your buddy. I don't think I'd be allowed to hang out with a person like that, honestly. So I don't get it. I don't get the infatuation with Antonio Brown. So the Seahawks are the front runner for him, all right, and I read you the list, and that's not even scratching the surface. There's so much more stuff I can say, but I don't even know if I can legally say it. Like, the dude is on a certain woman's OnlyFans in his own gym getting service. All right, so I don't think this guy's good at making decisions at life or himself. I think Devontae's Burfict hit did more damage than we are even realizing. And I was worried about him at first, but then I realized this is one of those cases. Money doesn't change the person. It reveals the real person behind the money. All right, you don't really know who you are until you're safe and you have the money. And he had to grind, and he was a quiet dude, and he wasn't really that big of a personality, and he was a stud at football. All right, went to Central Michigan. He played quarterback in high school, made the switch to receiver. Very talented football player. I get from a talent perspective, but does the talent outweigh the risk of what he can do and self-implode in a locker room? And I think Pete Carroll's a good, strong culture builder. I think they're the one team that can legitimately handle Antonio Brown coming in. We saw the shit show it was when he was on the Raiders. We all got to witness it on Hard Knocks. I don't think any team wants that. He froze his feet. I don't think he froze his feet. I think he was lying. And honestly, he might not have been. He's an idiot. So he had that helmet issue. He signed with the Raiders and then won it out months later. So I'm just confused. I don't know why people would want him on their team. I think it's a negative if you add him to a locker room. But there's one or two teams with the culture to where it can elevate them just due to that talent. All right. And, hear me out. I am a guy who believes in second chances. I always have been. Third chances even. But fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chances, I don't. It's just, you've gone too far. All right, now, I don't think he deserves to be on another team. I don't think he deserves to play in the NFL. I think he's lost that right. But I'm not the person who makes those decisions. Other people do. And that is where I'm going to stand, and I don't agree. And until he shows a very public change in his identity and the person he is, I will never agree. So it's a lose-lose situation talking about it because he's going to get signed. The league wins above all else. It always has been. That's what sports is. And, until he smokes pot, he's going to be welcomed back. So, we'll move forward to the other troubled kid. So we go from criminal student who misses 45, 50 classes a week to the guy who talks a little too much in class, might have a falling out with the teacher, doesn't really do well. But in the right circumstances with a teacher that's good at guiding him, getting the perfect amount of help he needs, he can be a superstar. That's Le'Veon Bell. Different types of troubled kids, opposite ends of the spectrum. So Le'Veon Bell's story leading up to it, we had the big holdout from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He felt like he was worth more money. The Jets thought he was worth that money. So he got through the year, wasn't able to come to a deal with the Steelers, went into free agency, signed with the Jets. And honestly, that was the karmic retribution for the Steelers that they wanted. Now that Le'Veon Bell has been punished, he has been rewarded with an opportunity with the Kansas City Chiefs. So, what does Le'Veon Bell provide? We don't know. I drafted him in the 3rd or 4th round in fantasy football thinking, all right, this guy's going to get 25, 30 touches a game. He's going to be a stud. I believe in Sam Darnold. Don't really believe in Adam Gase, but I think there's enough talent here on the offensive side of the ball that Le'Veon Bell can make a difference. I was wrong. I own that. I've been fixing it since week 1 of the NFL season. And now Le'Veon Bell is going to be a Kansas City Chief, who have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who just had a 140-yard game, Patrick Mahomes, Sammy Watkins, a great offensive line, Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill. So there are a lot of positives with joining the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they are a much better football team than the Jets. And you guys know I'm joking, right? They are significantly better. Andy Reid is an all-time great NFL coach. Yes, moving forward, what are my predictions for Le'Veon Bell? If he is motivated, if he is working hard, which hasn't really been the MO. I mean, I saw the videos of him working in the offseason. He seemed ready to go, but being ready to go for football and being ready to go as a physical specimen are two different things. Le'Veon Bell is a great running back. I think when he was at his peak, he was one of the best to ever do it. He was one of those modern running backs who caught the ball out of the backfield exceptionally well. He was unbelievable at Michigan State. I watched him plenty of times. And I think he is one of the generational talents of this generation of players. I was hoping we had not seen the end of it. I was just glad we saw the end of it with Pittsburgh because he was so good. Now he's with the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs are already the Super Bowl favorite. There's a reason that he threw his name into the ring with the Chiefs. They are going to be competing for a Super Bowl. The Chiefs are the new Patriots. You can go and you could revive your image at the Kansas City Chiefs, and then he's going to go and he's going to make more money, and hopefully he's going to make a better decision on the team he signs with. I believe in Le'Veon Bell. As much as I dislike him and what he did to my fantasy football team and where I took him in the draft and how ESPN Fantasy was so far off in their projections, it's not on them, all right? It's on me. And I will forgive him if he makes me right on my podcast. So, yes, I think I think you see the personality of Le'Veon Bell. I think in the right situation, he could be remotivated. The other troubled kid in school doesn't deserve another shot. You know, Le'Veon Bell is a kid with ADHD, the misunderstood dyslexic kid. All right, AB is the criminal. There's a big difference. And that is the troubled kids in school. My best segment yet. Chef kiss. All right, next on the list. This one was one of my favorite stories of the week, and this is how we're going to close out the show. And then maybe I'll do a 5 fast minutes or whatever, 2-minute drill, just picking games. I don't think I'm going to do that today. I haven't really looked them over, so it would just be me winging it per usual. Big show tomorrow for Buck Off Pod. for the Bug Off Podcast with Christopher Rennie. We are getting into 2 shows tomorrow. Special doubleheader, waking up real early for it. 5 a.m. We'll see. We will see. All right, so back to the Cowboys. So this story has been just a crazy one to follow, a crazy one to watch unfold, and a crazy one to talk about in general, because it really is just this question of what were they thinking at the start, okay? And I heard a few radio hosts sort of talk about this, but the line that I took away from all of it was Jerry Jones is more concerned about winning his way than winning. And at, almost 90 years old, right? He is an old man. 78. All right, so almost 80 years old. Sorry to all you 78 years olds out there. But Jerry Jones really is still involved with the Cowboys in every step of the way they take. You still have to get the boss's approval. I know it bothers Steven. I really do. I know Mike McCarthy was not the coach they should have hired. Honestly, if I was going to hire any coach, it would have been the offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. I think you go young, you go an innovative thinker, you go a young, energized guy who's ready to take on the world. I think that is it. You know, what was Tom Landry to the Cowboys? He was an innovator. Barry Switzer was this crazy dude from college. You know, who was the guy before? Jimmy Johnson never really had big-time coaching experience. He had Miami, obviously, but in the pros, he was never really the guy yet in the NFL. And the greatest tool of Jimmy Johnson was his talent evaluation. It's been arguments for decades on who really was it. I'm going to tell you, it was not Jerry Jones, okay? It was Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson knew a little bit more about football than Jerry Jones did. And yes, Jerry Jones has that oil tycoon Texas gut instinct. But it's not a case of, you know, who won that, who won there. And there's a reason that Jerry Jones has become such a control freak in his life, in his career, at the end of it as a football owner. Barry Switzer won a Super Bowl. And then what happened after? Jimmy Johnson's team that he built fell apart. Cowboys fell apart. All right. When's the last time the Cowboys were relevant? The teams Jimmy Johnson built. So what has Jerry Jones been trying to prove the last 2.5 decades? You know, the Romo years, the Bledsoe year, all those years of just obscurity for Cowboys Nation. There were low lows, man. But what was Jerry Jones trying to prove? And this is a question I've wondered and talked about before with my Cowboy fan relative more than anything on the planet. Was it Jason Garrett? No. I don't think Jason Garrett was the problem. I don't think Stephen Jones making decisions was the problem. I think there is one problem. It's the 78-year-old boss man making decisions based on wanting to win his way rather than what is legitimately best. There's a reason these hardened criminals, not to knock them, I mean, Randy Gregory smokes weed, man. All right, get over it. Aldon Smith, now that's a different story. Does he deserve a second chance? Yes, like I said, man of second chances. This is probably his third or fourth, but I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt here. So you guys know I'm not biased. I'm not just hating on Jerry Jones. All right, Aldon Smith's talent's undeniable. They needed pass rushers. All right, I get it. Mentally unstable, probably needed medication of sorts. All right, you get him all good. You get him the therapy he needs. We're good to go. All right, we're going to call it even. We're going to call it bread. All right, we traded to pieces, slices. You know, old biblical stuff. But I'm looking right now at Jimmy Johnson's pro football record as a head coach. 81, 34. Oh, that's college. 81, 34, and 3 in college. In the NFL, 80 and 64. And I'm going to let you know, in his first year, the Cowboys were not good. All right? They were bad. They were very bad. They were 1-15 bad. And after that 1-15 bad in Dallas, he never had, or after a 7-9 1990 year when all those young players were growing, he never had another losing season as a head coach in the NFL. All right, that's culture. That's winning. That's stability. That's what you want in a head coach. That's what Jason Garrett provided. And yes, Jason Garrett had losing records. But Jason Garrett had the players back. You saw it when Jason Garrett walked out. Dak was down. He's not the coach anymore. These players couldn't give two craps if Jason Garrett was there, and at the game. It's nice. Well, they knew him. They had played for him for years. But now we're talking at another level of pure just Mike McCarthy just doesn't look the part anymore. Did you guys see when he got hired, the videos on ESPN about how he was talking about how him and his coaching staff that were not working anymore stayed involved in the game, and he learned about the RPOs. It was very similar to this time in high school when our high school coaches went to visit Colorado State and Jim McElwain. The offensive revolution was happening. The modernization of the sport was moving forward. RPOs were becoming a thing regularly, especially in the lower tiers, the group of five conferences. Some of the Pac-12 were getting into the RPO type stuff at the time. Ohio State was starting to get involved with it. It was starting to become a very mainstream aspect of the sport. A lot of questions regarding rules were in the case. They came back with the sail route. All right, and if you guys know the sail route, it's a great route. It's a well-designed route when you have a situation where you keep winning inside, allows you to win to the outside, and you get an easy 35, 40-yard games. But you want to know how many times the sail route works in a game? It works once. All right? You know how many times an RPO works in a game? A bunch of times. Well, now that was 5 years ago when you were ahead of the curve. Now you're just getting to the curve, Mike McCarthy. All right? You still don't know how to really build a culture. You were gifted with an all-time elite quarterback and a very well-constructed roster. And that's the coach the Cowboys decided on. That's Jerry Jones trying to win his way with the players he drafted and the coach he handpicked. All right, Mike McCarthy is the best winner. I'm Jared Jones. I can do no wrong. I have a mega yacht I'm going to watch the draft in. You can't be out of touch with reality and also a genius. You can't live in both sides of the world. You either have to be the guy who's in the office 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. watching film on potential draft prospects, not worried about the public image, or you're the owner of the team. All right, those are the two options. You can't put your foot in the water and not jump in the pool. All right, it's just going to be a cause for disaster. And for the last 2 decades, we have seen that disaster with one of the all-time best quarterbacks to ever play the game, with one of the best running backs to ever put on football pads, with a very, very good quarterback in Dak, with one of the best O-lines ever put together in the history of the NFL. All right, you hear what I'm saying, right? And they have barely gotten out of the NFC East. There's one common denominator with all 30 of those last 30 years of teams, and it's the man in charge. All right, and now his energy probably had a big play in building the brand that is the Cowboys. It made it the billion-dollar team that it is, and he was great at that. But he's not great at talent evaluation, and he's not the best at letting people do their jobs. So that's Jerry Jones. That's how I'm going to close out the show today. It's going to be a fun NFL weekend this weekend. I hope the Browns win again. We're back to being, hey, we're 4-2. I got 2 more weeks of us having a winning record. Baker Mayfield's getting hate. Had to throw the Browns in there. That's a cool picture of Odell Beckham on the TV. But yes, that's it. That's the show today. I hope you guys enjoyed my few topics I went through. And hopefully it was informative, well thought out, and smart like I like to think of myself as. Hopefully it wasn't too quiet. As I said at the beginning, regular speaking voice. We are hosting guest in the studio, a.k.a. my apartment. So follow me on Twitter, Chris Rennie CFB, all sports talk, all sports opinionations. You don't want to miss anything that happens in this beautiful mind. And if you see the movie, don't take that joke too seriously. All right, but your boy's out. He's got to go to work, make some money, sling some freight. And if you are listening and you have freight, send it my way, Christopher at freightsaver.com. All right. Adios, muchachos. Have a wonderful day. And go Bucks this weekend. All right. That's how we're ending it.